Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Jagrada Mother prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharidhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharidhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharidhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharidhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. आप सबका स्वागत है, आप सबका अभिनंदन है। हरे कृष्णा देवी, प्लीज।
हरे बोल, हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स, सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। प्रभु जी आज श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास में हम सभी के लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट लेसन्स लेकर आए हैं। हम कर रहे हैं कैंटो 3 और इस पर्टिकुलर कैंटो में जो चैप्टर्स हैं उनमें बहुत सारी ब्यूटीफुल वर्सेस हैं, बहुत सारे ब्यूटीफुल पर्पट्स हैं। तो अगर हमारे पास इतना वक्त नहीं है कि हम बैठें कई कई घंटे और ध्यान से पढ़ें, तो प्रभु जी हम सब के लिए जो ये एसेंस लाते हैं इन्हें हम ध्यान से सुन सकते हैं, श्रवण कर सकते हैं। एंड इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस देन टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द क्लास, अराउंड 45 मिनट्स प्रभु जी दिस क्लास,
45 minutes.
yeah, so towards the end of the class you can present your questions in the comments area. I can read them to Prabhuji and he will answer your questions. So Prabhuji, कुछ viewers हैं, नेहा शर्मा जी वेलकम, बैसाखी जी, सीमा चांदना जी, हरी बोल, ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड आप सब जो ज्वाइन करते हैं, कुछ की लोकेशंस हमें पता है, कुछ की नहीं, लेकिन इफ़ यू फील कन्वीनियंट प्लीज़ मेंशन इन योर ग्रीटिंग्स अपनी लोकेशंस। हरीश चंडक जी, ललित सिंह जी, पॉपी गौतम जी, धुरबा जी, बालकिशन जी, तुषार, सहदेव पुलक, शमिष्ठा जी, अमरदीप राय जी, हिरेन जी, कल्पा जी, सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। जिन व्यूअर्स का हम इस वक्त नाम नहीं ले पा रहे हैं, आपका खास स्वागत है। सो प्रभु जी प्लीज गो अहेड विद द क्लास। कैन आई पुट ऑन द माइक्रोफोन नाउ?
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Prayers we'll do
Yes,
first.
we'll sing the prayers. Please join us for Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet. Shravutam
स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तना
हृदयन्तस्तो भद्राणि विधुनोति सुहसताम् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। हरे कृष्णा।
प्रभु जी, let me put on this microphone. And then we can start with the verse.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we'll be discussing the lessons, basically the 3 important lessons that we learned in today's class. So when it is less, it is actually more. Sometimes people think अगर ये कम है तो बहुत अच्छा है और जल्दी से समझ में भी आता है, लेकिन उसका डेप्थ बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है. So again हम will be diving into, और हम लोग इसमें आज विल लर्न हाउ टू बी माइंडफुल, राइट, हाउ टू बी कॉन्शियस ऑफ आवर सराउंडिंग. व्हाई? सो दैट वी अंडरस्टैंड एंड वी कैन एक्सपीरियंस द लॉर्ड ऑल अराउंड अस, सो वी कैन बी compassionate, right, in our dealings, our day-to-day dealings. And when we are serving Krishna, when we are serving Him with devotion, when we are serving Him with gratitude, and also the devotees, how to interact with devotees, how to have those loving exchanges. हम कैसे प्रेममय भाव से भगवान के भक्तों से, संतों से हम कैसे इंटरेक्ट करें और कैसे हम भगवान की भक्ति में लीन हो, इसके लिए हम लोगों को कांस्टेंट एंडीवर करना पड़ता है. और उसके लिए हमारी मन की धारणा कैसे होनी चाहिए, हमारा स्वभाव कैसा होना चाहिए, हमारा आचार व्यवहार कैसा होना चाहिए, राइट. दिस इज द एसेंस. सो please join us in the recitation of the first 2 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29. And title of the chapter is Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapil. तो Lord Kapil देव भक्ति योग का एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं, उसकी व्याख्या कर रहे हैं, उसको डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उनकी जो मदर देवहूति हैं उन्होंने प्रश्न पूछे हैं. तो पहले के जो वर्सेस हैं इस चैप्टर में, उन्होंने डिवोशनल सर्विस पिछले चैप्टर में डिस्क्राइब कर दिया. शी अंडरस्टैंड्स इट. उन्होंने बोला कि आपने सांख्य योग एनालिटिकल स्टडी के हिसाब से मुझे पूरा डिस्क्राइब कर दिया है, बट आई हैव दीज क्वेश्चंस एंड नाउ द क्वेश्चन शी इज पोजिंग इज विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू समय, टाइम, विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू डिवोशनल सर्विस, and with respect to this material universe, samsar, right? Samsara means the cycle of birth and death, people who are caught in this. So in this chapter, Kapil Dev touches on the topic of time and devotional service. And then further he describes time and samsara, how people are in this Ferris wheel, as Srila Prabhupada used to say, the cycle of birth, death, that will be in the next 3 chapters. So that will be the focus later on. So here we'll focus on devotional service, कैसे हम लोग भक्ति योग में लगे और कैसे we can experience Lord all around us and especially in the form of time. So please join us in the recitation of the first 2 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, text 1 and 2. Devohuteruvacha lakshanam mahad adinam prakate purushasya cha swarupam lakshyate amisham yena tat paramathikam yatha sankheshu katitam yanamulam tat prachakshate bhakti yogyasya me margam Bruhi Vistarashah Prabhu. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti inquired, My dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So again, at this particular point, Devahuti herself has understood the importance of devotional service. Bhakti Yoga kitna important hai. And so, while she is asking question, right? इस chapter में वो अपने कुछ questions कर रही है for ignorant people in this world who do not understand कि Bhakti Yoga is so potent that just by engaging in Bhakti, one can attract Lord Shri Krishna, right? So again, as an expansion of Radharani, so again Bhakti Devi. So we should understand that when we are engaging in devotional service, we are under the we're taking shelter of the Lord's internal potency, right? Radharani. And she is known as Madan Mohan Mohini. So Lord Krishna, he can attract even the Cupid, Kamdev. That's why he is called Madan Mohan. Mohan means who, can attract. Madan is Cupid, Kamdev. But she is Madan Mohan Mohini because she can attract even Lord Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna Akarshani, another way we understand her. So, it's very important for us to understand the importance of devotional service in our life. And she's asking, please explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of philosophical systems, because she has recognized that and she is putting her conclusion as what she has understood very clearly. Okay, you have scientifically described, तो हमने पहले देखा Kapil Dev, he has scientifically described this material universe, how the 25 elements, they, lead to the universal form. Then he describes the universal form. Then he describes the devotional service, and he's telling that starting with faith. So one should have little faith, and that faith can enable one to engage, to be enlightened, to take to the path of devotional service. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. One should make an inquiry. What is the purpose of this life? Why am I here? Why is there suffering in this world? Why are bad things happening to good people? Why are there so many discrimination, across different living entities? And among human beings, someone is getting blessed and someone is getting cursed. Why are all these things happening? So again, we need to understand from the perspective of, so that we can be mindful and we can be compassionate when we are engaging in Lord's devotional service. So your mindfulness, this is very important. Sometimes people say mind doesn't matter and matter don't mind. But in reality, the whole Bhagavad Gita is focusing on that mind matters. Right? Man mana bhava mad bhakto. Right? Mind matters beyond comprehension. And it is our mind which can be our best enemy, worst enemy when we are engaging in materialistic endeavors, but it can be our best friend when we are engaging in devotional service. So it's the same person, right? Same entity, same mind is one of the 8, material energies. So again, this is mind when engaged in devotional service is our best friend. When engaged in material endeavors for fruitive results, to enjoy our senses, to give enjoyment to the senses, to enjoy the sense objects, that is the worst enemy. So day-to-day life, means we see the same thing. Sometimes people say, knife is bad. Well, knife is just an instrument, right? Srila Prabhupada used to give this example. A knife in the hand of a thug is very dangerous, while the same knife in the hand of a doctor can save one's life, right? You wouldn't say, oh, knife is dangerous. Why is the doctor holding knife? No, you understand the doctor is going to remove the bad things out of your body. So again, similarly, even the human form of body, that's why Acharya says, is very rare. Because this is a perfect boat. When engaged in devotional service, we can cross over the ocean of nations. Now, instead of crossing over the ocean of nations, we spend it in, fruitive activities in over endeavor, right? And those other 6 kind of activities that, will destroy our bhakti also. They can take us away from Krishna. So again, we all want to come closer to Krishna. We all want to, attain eternal happiness. So again, we were looking at some of the interesting aspect as why devotees are always happy, right? Bhakta log jo hote hain, hamesha khush kyun rehte hain? Hamesha they are constantly rejoicing, even in midst of all kind of calamities. They are constantly seeking. So again, I'll give you a very nice example. So there were 2 temples, right? One temple, people were saying, oh, pandemic has come, please save us, please save us, please save us. And they were not really getting much support. On the other, and this was a big temple, right? On the other temple, a small temple was saying, well, there is pandemic all around, people are suffering. We have been given this opportunity by Lord Shri Krishna that we should serving humanity, help them. So they were saying, well, we are only few people, so we are not big crowd like other places, but we want to really serve and help the suffering humanity and go out. So whatever the funds they were getting, they were immediately cooking meals, going out and helping people, providing them the basic necessities in the pandemic times, going. And all of a sudden, there were big guys over here in this big temple saying, save the temple, but they were surprised that the fund was flowing to this small temple. In this small temple, more people were joining forces. From 5 it grew to 50, from 50 it grew to 500. The volunteers were just joining in and expanding. Why? Because they understood what is devotional service. They were mindful of the aspect that devotional service is understanding that Lord Krishna is not just in the temple in the deity form. And devotees are not just supposed to be serving Lord Shri Krishna in the deity form, but also serving the suffering humanity. The purpose is to enable everyone to become Krishna conscious. And to be able to make everyone Krishna conscious, first it is necessary to take care of the basic needs, right? Maslow understood this hierarchy. He understood that at the bottom is the basic needs. So each sleep made defined. Still, devotees also have to do, general people also have to do. When these becomes things of the background, people are not thinking about eating, sleeping, mating, defending. When it's basically eating to sustain the body, sleeping to recharge the body, and some level of enjoyment. And when we do, devotional service, Srila Prabhupada used to say this is a complete recreation program. Why? Because all we do is we sing, we chant, we dance, and then we enjoy. We enjoy, actually, yes, prasadam, right? Food offering that has been made to the Lordship. It is fully spiritualized, and we take it. And not just the body get nourished, but also the spirit. We, the living entities, we get nourished. Spiritually, we become strong, and then we go in defense. We become the warriors, the spiritual warriors, and we go out and help others. This is the mood that this small temple had, and it grew in no time, surpassing all big temples, because the focus of the devotees was in pure consciousness, in Krishna consciousness, in understanding. So this chapter is all about that, right? So one basic aspect is, when we want to understand this, then how can we get such devotional service which can help the whole humanity? It simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And even the chanting, again, it can be in different moods. Worship of the deities, it can be in different moods. Happiness in different moods. We have talked about this, right? The different modes of material nature can influence. किस तरह से? So devotee is just simply saying, जैसे संत कबीर कह के गए हैं, साईं इतना दीजिए जामे कुटुंब समाए, मैं भी भूखा न रहूं, साधु न भूखा जाए. So again, just having sufficient so that we can sustain ourselves and make sure that the devotees can sustain themselves and we can help them, so that we can all, engage in devotional service. So the focus is, Srila Prabhupada used to say, if you have time, chant the holy name. If you have money, print the books. And if you have, an opportunity, then serve the humanity. So again, this is where I'm adding the third one, and which is where this chapter is focusing on, that if someone thinks that the deities are only in the temple, then that person is actually at the Kanishta Adhikari. So in Nectar of Devotion, it is very nicely described by Rupa Goswami. Also in the purport, Srila Prabhupada described in Nectar of Instruction that there are three categories of devotees. So this is the first lesson today. There is a level of devotee as Kanishta Adhikari, which is neophyte. Then the second category is Madhyam Adhikari, which is at the middle level. And then Uttam Adhikari, the topmost devotee or pure devotee. So the Kanishta Adhikari is just going to the temple and he is worshipping the deities. And he does not understand that Lord is expanding everywhere. He is present everywhere. He is residing in every living entity's heart as super soul, as Paramatma. So he is, only focusing on pleasing the deities, and that with that focus, he is neglecting and he is not having a loving exchange with other devotees. So that is also, not very much encouraged, because you should understand that Lord is in everyone's heart as super soul, and so our loving exchange with other living entities is very important. Now, a neophyte is at that level, so they may be, Srila Prabhupada even give the example that they may be even the pujaris on the altar, and they may be just performing. Once again, they may have even received Brahman initiation, but they are so much focused between the deities and themselves, they neglect everyone else. And such people, when they forget about everyone else and says, oh, this is my relation with God, and I have to, protect my service from this particular perspective, and they neglect all other living entities. They cannot be compassionate, and they sometimes are very harsh when dealing with others, right? Then thus such people are neophytes. And there is a very nice story in the Shastras, in the scriptures, आती है कि एक ब्राह्मण था, वो रोज पूजा करता था. एक बार देवर्षि नारद आते हैं, बोलते हैं अरे ये ब्राह्मण कितनी अच्छी तरह पूजा करता है. और वो ब्राह्मण जब देवर्षि नारद को देखता है तो उनको ओबीसेंसेस पे करता है, बोलता है कैसे आना हुआ. बोलते हैं मैं बस वैकुंठ जा रहा था, तो आई थॉट आई शुड स्टॉप हियर. तो बोलते हैं अरे आप वैकुंठ जा रहे हैं तो प्लीज़ भगवान से पूछ के बताइएगा कि मैं कब वैकुंठ आ जाऊँगा. तो बोलते हैं बिल्कुल, व्हाई नॉट. और फिर देवर्षि नारद बाहर जब निकले तो वहीं पे एक बरगद के पेड़ के नीचे और मे बी पीपल के पेड़ के नीचे एक कॉबलर मोची बैठा हुआ था। वो जूते सीधा और इस तरह से चमड़े का काम कर रहा था। तो उसने देखा देवर्षि नारद, तो उसने भी ओबीसेंसेस पे करे। उसने कहा, देवर्षि नारद मेरे अहो भाग्य के आपके दर्शन हुए। देवर्षि नारद आप कहाँ जा रहे हैं, कैसे आना हुआ? तो देवर्षि नारद देखते हैं, अरे वेरी नाइस, कॉबलर है, मोची है। तो बोलते हैं बस मैं वैकुंठ जा रहा था। तो मोची ने भी वही प्रश्न पूछा। बोलते हैं देवर्षि नारद अगर आप यहाँ से आएंगे तो आप भगवान से पूछ सकते हैं कि वैकुंठ जाके कि मैं कब वापस चला जाऊंगा। तो देवर्षि नारद बोलते हैं ठीक है, उनको ध्यान है। अब ब्राह्मण ने भी यही प्रश्न पूछा है, मोची ने भी यही प्रश्न पूछा है। So he goes, when he goes to Vaikuntha, he's, singing the glories of the Lordship. He gets to get darshan of the Lordship. भगवान के दर्शन करते हुए फिर वो बोलते हैं कि भगवान, ये ब्राह्मण ने भी यही प्रश्न पूछा है और मोची ने भी यही प्रश्न पूछा है, तो इसका क्या जवाब है आपका? तो भगवान बोलते हैं, लॉर्ड विष्णु, ही सेज कि वो जो मोची है ना, दैट कॉबलर, ही विल कम बैक इन दिस लाइफ ओनली, बट वो जो ब्राह्मण है, ही विल हैव टू हैव मैनी मैनी लाइव्स, बहुत जन्म लेने पड़ेंगे। सो ऐसे में लाइक देवर्षि नारद इज सरप्राइज्ड। इट्स लाइक हाउ कुड इट बी दैट ब्राह्मण इज एंगेज इन योर वर्शिप डे एंड नाइट, ही इज सर्विंग यू, and this mochi is doing all kind of things, and he's, how could he be coming back? So तब भगवान विष्णु उनको, देवर्षि नारद को बोलते हैं, तुम जाके बस उनको ये बताना कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, तब तुम्हें अपने आप पता लग जाएगा कि कौन कितना पानी में है, राइट? So again, देवर्षि नारद, he comes back and he visits the temple where the Brahman is. और ब्राह्मण पूछता है, अरे देवर्षि नारद आप आ गए, आपने मेरा प्रश्न पूछा? देवर्षि नारद बोलते हैं, हाँ मैंने प्रश्न पूछा। तो बोलते हैं कि मैंने जब पूछा तो उन्होंने कहा तुम्हें तो भाई बहुत सारे जन्म लगेंगे, अभी बहुत तुम्हें जन्म इस पृथ्वी पे काफ़ी समय रहना पड़ेगा। तो ब्राह्मण बोलता है, अरे मैं तो दिन रात प्रभु की सेवा करता हूँ, आप कोई वैकुंठ नहीं गए, अपने मन से बना रहे हैं। तो अच्छा बताइए, भगवान से जब आप मिले तो वो क्या कर रहे थे? तो देवर्षि नारद बोलते हैं, भगवान से जब मैं मिला तो मैंने देखा कि वो जो नीडल ऑफ एन आई, जो सुई होती है ना, उसकी जो छिद्र होता है उसमें, ही वॉज पासिंग एन एलिफेंट फ्रॉम द आई ऑफ अ नीडल। तो ब्राह्मण बोलते हैं, अरे आप तो कुछ भी बोलते हैं, आपने कोई वैकुंठ नहीं गए, भगवान हाथी को सुई के छिद्र से पार करा रहे, ऐसा कहीं होता है क्या? So he just laughed, and Devotion was surprised by the response of this Brahman. He was like shocked actually. अरे ब्राह्मण ने क्या बोला? He doesn't really have much faith. So he understands why भगवान ने क्यों बोला कि इस ब्राह्मण को बहुत जन्म लेने पड़ेंगे, बहुत टाइम लगेगा वापस आने में। तो वो वापस जा रहे थे तो मोची मिला। तो मोची बोलता है, देवर्षि नारद आपने भगवान से पूछा? बोलते हैं, हाँ मैंने भगवान से पूछा। वो बोलते हैं कि इस जन्म के बाद ही तुम वापस चले जाओगे। तो मोची बोलने लगता है, अरे प्रभु बड़े दयालु हैं, प्रभु बहुत कृपालु हैं, उनकी महिमा तो अपरंपार है। अच्छा बताइए, जब आपने भगवान को देखा तो वो क्या कर रहे थे? देवर्षि नारद बोलते हैं, सेम थिंग, ही वाज पासिंग एन एलिफेंट थ्रू द आई ऑफ अ नीडल, सुई के छिद्र से हाथी को पार करा रहे थे। तो जो मोची होता है, द कॉबलर, ही स्टार्ट्स ग्लोरीफाइंग फर्दर। बोलते हैं, ओह ही इज सो अमेजिंग, प्रभु तो ऐसी विचित्र रचनाएं करते हैं, विचित्र लीलाएं करते हैं, नो डाउट ही इज अमेजिंग। देवर्षि नारद बोलते हैं, भाई हाउ कैन यू बिलीव दैट एलिफेंट कैन पास थ्रू द आई ऑफ अ नीडल? सुई के छिद्र से एक हाथी कैसे क्रॉस कर सकता है? तुम कैसे मान सकते हो? बोलते हैं, देखिए मैं जिस बरगद के पेड़ के नीचे बैठा हूँ, वो बरगद का पेड़ एक छोटे से बीज से आया था, और वो जिस बीज जो आया था वो दूसरे बरगद के पेड़ से आया था, और वो बरगद का जो पेड़ था उसने बहुत सारे हजारों बीज करे, राइट? और वो बरगद का पेड़ भी एक बीज से आया था। ऐसे ही देखे जाए तो कितने मिलियंस एंड मिलियंस ऑफ बरगद के पेड़ कितनी जनरेशन से एक छोटे से बीज से आए। प्रभु कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, उनकी तो महिमा अपरंपार है। ही इज अनलिमिटेड एंड हिज ग्लोरीज आर अनलिमिटेड। तो देवर्षि नारद समझ जाते हैं कि इट्स ऑल अ मैटर ऑफ हार्ट, कि हाउ मच श्रद्धा डू वी हैव, हाउ मच निष्ठा, स्ट्रॉन्गर श्रद्धा डू वी हैव। तो ही अंडरस्टैंड्स एंड ही सेज, यस नाउ आई अंडरस्टैंड। भगवान विष्णु ने बोला था कि मैं जब बताऊंगा तो इन लोगों की जो श्रद्धा है वो डिस्क्राइब करेगी कि ये लोग कितने पानी में हैं, और उनको समझ में आ गया कि इवन अ मोची कैन be more elevated than a Brahman, because he is friendly and he has full, faith, and is fully mindful and is compassionate towards all living entities, and he is constantly engaged in devotional service, which is like, our Sanatan Dharma, and then his prescribed duties. So again, Swadharma. When both are very well aligned, then that is the state. So this is why devotees, they always want to serve the sadhus, santa, and also they are always sweet in their speaking. His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, he used to say that we should interact with others as if the success of our spiritual life depends on our interaction. Right? हमें दूसरों से ऐसा मिलना चाहिए, इतने प्रेम भाव से मिलना चाहिए, इतने मिलनसार होकर उनसे व्यवहार करना चाहिए, जैसे हमारा पूरे आध्यात्म में जीवन की जो आधार है, इट्स कम्प्लीटली बेस्ड ऑन दिस इंटरैक्शन. और संत कबीर तो कह के गए हैं, ऐसी बानी बोलिए मन का आपा खोए, और अंध को शीतल करे आपू शीतल होए. तो ऐसे वी शुड, व्हेन वी आर एंगेज इन एक्टिविटीज, वी कैन एंगेज इन एक्टिविटीज विथ माइंड, बॉडी एंड वर्ड्स. राइट? तो ऐसे में हमें ऐसा स्वीटनेस के साथ बोलना चाहिए कि सुनने वाला शीतल हो जाए और हमको तो शीतल करे ही, वी गेट प्यूरिफाइड ऑल्सो. और माय डियर गुरु महाराज, वो तो बहुत ही प्यारा एग्जाम्पल देते हैं इस रेफरेंस में. शिला भगवत पाद कहते हैं कि जब हम वृंदावन जाते हैं, अगर आप वृंदावन गए होंगे तो वहाँ पे कृष्ण बलराम टेम्पल है. राइट? तो जब आप एंटर करते हैं तो पहले तो आप लेफ्ट साइड पे देखते हैं प्रभुपाद समाधि है. फिर उसके बाद में आप जब टेम्पल के आंगन में जाते हैं, फिर उसके में देखते हैं कि बिल्कुल बीचों बीच में कृष्ण बलराम डीटीज़ हैं. राइट साइड पे राधा कृष्ण जी हैं, लेफ्ट साइड पे गौरानिताई जी हैं. तो बोलते हैं कि देयर आर ऑल्सो प्रीस्ट हु आर वर्शिपिंग द डीटीज़. सो कृष्ण जो है वो ब्लैक मार्बल के हैं, और बलराम जी हैं वो वाइट मार्बल के हैं. सो दे आर ऑल्सो सर्विंग. द प्रीस्ट जो हैं, पंडित हैं, जो ब्राह्मण हैं, वो सर्व कर रहे हैं वहाँ पे. और अगर आप फ्लोर देखेंगे तो आपको वही लगेगा, अरे ये तो फ्लोर जो मार्बल है ये भी वाइट एंड ब्लैक ही है, और वहाँ पे समवन हु इज स्वीपिंग द फ्लोर. सो बोथ आर डूइंग डिवोशनल सर्विस, एंड अ पर्सन हु मे बी स्वीपिंग द फ्लोर could be highly elevated when he is, with love, with devotion, with gratitude, with, prema bhav, he is clean, sweeping the floor clean, so that when the devotees will come to see the Lordship, they have a wonderful experience, very soothing experience. So again, very nice environment is created. So again, this is also हमारा भाव कैसा है, how mindful are we of our surroundings. It matters a lot. And devotional service is not all that easy. Yes, the process is very easy. For a simple-minded person, it is very simple. For a difficult-minded person, for a convoluted person, one who is lusty, one who is proud, one who is, proud of his riches, of his beauty, his fame, name, glories, such a person finds it very difficult. और संत कबीर तो कह के गए हैं इसके बारे में, कामी क्रोधी लालची इनसे भक्ति न होए, भक्ति करे कोई सूरमा, जाति बरन कुल खोए. So people who are kami, lusty, right? And then krodhi, one who is angry, and a lalchi, one who is greedy, they cannot perform devotional service, because lust, anger and greed are the three gates to hell. Bhagavad Gita में भगवान कृष्ण कह गए. So how can be a lusty and angry person or a greedy person be engaged in devotional service? Yes, they may make a show of it, but it's only an imitation, right? Bhakti करने के लिए you have to be a surma, and you have to elevate yourself above jati varana kulukhoev, above the various designations associated with the body, that I am a Brahman, or I am a Vaishya, or I am a Kshatriya, or I am a Shudra. Means again, All these designations that I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm an Indian, I'm an American, I'm a European, all these designations, I'm white, I'm black, all these designations should be given up. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam yat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So we have to give up all varieties of designations associated with this body, and when we engage in devotional service in this manner, right, to please Lord Shri Krishna, only to please Lord Shri Krishna, and seeing Him everywhere. So when we are interacting with others, we have to be compassionate. And compassionate, sometimes people focus on the passion part, while compassionate is actually a compass. Are we heading in the right direction? Right? The first part is compass. Compass refers to, helps us align ourselves in the right direction. That this is the direction I am heading towards. Is my compass pointing in the right direction? Is my heart pointing in the right direction? Are my activities pointing in the right direction? Are my words being soothing so that people take to Krishna consciousness? That should be the focus. And whenever there is Krishna Katha going on, whenever there is Lord's name form activities and glories are going on, one should be very anxious, because that's called Namahat. Namahat means there is a market of the holy name. So one should go there, should engage. Sometimes we see some devotees, they say, no, I will only go there if I am the speaker. If I am not the speaker, I am not going there. Whose loss is it? It's your loss. If you don't go, it doesn't matter. You should hear. Shravanam is more important, most potent. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. By hearing, by chanting, by remembering the Lordship, we can attain perfection. These are simple processes. So, loot sake to loot le, Hari Nama ke loot, ant samay pachataega, jab pran jayenge chut. So again, Sant Kabir has given us this important instruction that every opportunity, every moment is valuable, and we should make use of it. Time I am, Lord Krishna says, devourer of all things. So yes, bodies, they will be, we have to leave these bodies. But what we want to get attached to the Lord's lotus feet by constantly taking to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And yes, we refer to the scriptures not to become Pandit. We refer to the scriptures to develop the love for Godhead, to engage in devotional service, to purify our existence. Poti pari jug mua पंडित भया न कोय ढाई आखर प्रेम का पड़े सो पंडित होए. Sant Kabir has given us very nice instruction that we may be reading many scriptures, but if we don't understand the essence of those scriptures, then we may just be as lost as anyone else, right? तो हम लोगों को अपना ये इम्पोर्टेंस समझना चाहिए कि प्रेम क्या है. प्रेम एंड जो कहते हैं ना काम, there is of lust. There is a big difference between love and lust. In case of love, Lord Krishna is in the center, and all our activities are dovetailed in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna, right? But that doesn't mean we just serve the deities, we just read Srimad Bhagavatam, or just engage in Kirtan, but also we engage others in Kirtan. We have loving exchange with others, because Lord is residing in everyone's heart as super soul. And when we read various scriptures, there is a very important instructions given. Again, when we engage in reading scriptures, it should make us more humble, right? Every PhD holder knows one thing, that they don't know enough. So they are normally very humble. People, yes, sometimes people, they are looking for name, fame and glories, and that's why they go and do PhD degrees. And after doing PhD degrees, they are running after name, fame and glories, and it's too late for them to understand that the focus was to become more humble, more tolerant, more grateful for all the blessings that we have received. People take things for granted. They think, I deserve this. No, we don't deserve anything. It is by Lord's causeless mercy. We are not qualified even to get the human form of life. But Lord is so merciful that He gives us human form of life, being compassionate to us so that we can use this human form of this birth as a human being to cross over this ocean of nascence, and this can be crossed when we dovetail our mind. So yes, mind matters in this case in engagement of devotional service. We engage our mind in devotional service. With mind, body and words, we have to align ourselves in devotional service. And sometimes people, they are so much focused. Oh, I want to interact with this devotee because, he's a very rich person, or this devotee, he's a very big speaker, or this devotee who's, from a Brahmin family, or this devotee who's, either from Gujarat or some other category. These are all sarvopadi vinirmuktam. You have to give up these, designations of the body. And इसके बारे में संत कबीर ने बहुत ही प्यारी दोहे कहे हैं. तो जाति न पूछो साधु की, पूछ लीजिए ज्ञान, मोल करो तरवार का, पड़ा रहन दो म्यान. So again, when you are trying to engage, it is the sword that is more important than the myan where you keep the sword. So it is very important to understand what is the faith, what is the knowledge, what is the devotion that a devotee has. And sometimes when we talk about this chapter where Lord Kapil Dev, he is son of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So he is the son, and he is telling this devotional service, right? He's glorifying the devotional service, and this is his mother. So sometimes people say, how could a son be preaching to his mother? Well, this is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna has come as Kapil Dev, and he is preaching to Devahuti, who is daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, wife of Kardama Muni, right? Such a great personality. And even though she is princess, she is very humbly asking, oh my dear Lord. So this is how she is addressing, because she understands that he is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes people say, oh, this is only a boy. Then we should remember Gopal Guru's case, where even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Gopal, a 9-year-old boy, as his guru. So again, there is no age, for a devotee. There is no designation for a devotee. There is no color for a devotee. There is no jat for a devotee. That's what is said, right? Jati varan kuluk hoye. So again, a devotee is, Jivera Surpure hoye Krishnera Nityadas. We living entities are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So instead of focusing on external coverings, we should engage our mind in devotional service. So that is also very important. Hare Krishna. So, in the previous class, we talked about the science of devotional service. That is also very important. So again, we talked about Kanishta Adhikari. Then comes Madhyam Adhikari. Madhyam Adhikari is one who, differentiates different kind of living entities around them, and they interact with them accordingly. So they are Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari. So neophyte, the lowest level, as you can sometimes people make it sound very hard, but yeah, they are new, and they could be doing the devotions, engaging in devotional service for many, many, not just years, but decades or even births. But they have not attained the level of faith, the level of understanding to understand that Dhai Akhar Premika, right? So that is also very important. Then Madhyam Adhikari is one who is friendly to people who are at the same level of consciousness as they are. They are compassionate towards the people who are below them, right? People who have less faith, and they are very respectful and always ready to serve people who are more advanced than them. And they avoid the envious, right? So this is the stage where Madhyam Adhikari is working. And then Uttam Adhikari is the one who is understanding that Lord is everywhere, in everyone's heart, and they want to help everyone. They are interacting in a manner to benefit everyone and bring them closer to Lord Shri Krishna. So that is Uttam Adhikari. And at Uttam Adhikari level, the faith is very strong. And again, this is sometimes a misconception is there that Uttam Adhikari has to be a sannyasi. Then let's look at it. There are 12 Mahajanas, right? Swayambhur Narado Shambhu, Kumaro Kapilo Manu, Prahalado Janako Bhishmu, Bali Vaya Sakir Vayam, right? So, Swayambhur Narado. Swayambhur is, Lord Brahma. He's a Grahastha. Last time I checked. Uh, Swayambhur Narado. Devashi Narad is, of course, Brahmachari. And when he becomes a little proud, then he actually wanted to get married also, and also wanted to, he, when influenced by Maya, takes the form of a woman and gets married to a king and so forth. So those are, leelas that Lord Vishnu performs through Devashi Narad to teach us lessons. Of course, he's a great Mahajana. Then Lord Shambhu, as we know, he's also a Grahastha, right? Kumaras, the Chatur Kumaras, they stayed as boys, Sanak, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar, they stayed as boys, 5-year-old boys. So even though they are very old, they stayed in this form. So of course they are brahmacharis and, sannyasis, you can say, but they are in a brahmachari form. So again, they didn't have to worry about going all the way because they are engaged in devotional service. Kapil Dev is the one who is, sharing this Sankhya Yoga. He is giving this knowledge to his mother, Devahuti, and Manu. So again, this is Swayambhuva Manu, who is also a Grahastha. Prahlada Janako Bhishma. So Prahlad Maharaj also a Grahastha. Janak Maharaj, father of Sita Mata, he is also a Grahastha. Janako, Prahlada, Janako, Manu. And then, so again, we see so many Grahasthas among the 12 of them. Bali Vayasakir Vayam. So Bali Maharaj also a Grahastha. Vayasaki is Shukdev Goswami, and Shukdev Goswami, while he has expanded into two. One of them is Grahastha, one of them is a Brahmachari. And then Vayam is Yamraj, and he is also Grahastha. So many Grahasthas are there. And when we look at sannyasis, we only see Devashi Narad as a sannyasi. The brahmacharis, the Chaturkumaras, sometimes people say they are sannyasis as well. Yes, they can be considered sannyasis, but they are always engaged in devotional service, so they are not under those categories of 4 ashrams. They are constantly engaged in devotional service. But there are so many grahasthas, and that's bewildering to people. Yes, that's why in the beginning, when the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, Muhyati Suryaha, Srila Vyasadev is singing, he's praying to the Lordship that you even put, the demigods, the devotees in illusion, because they cannot understand how unlimited you are, right? People try to understand Krishna, but devotees just want to love Krishna. That's the difference. People read big pothis, big scriptures to understand, to be able to measure that this is what Lord Krishna does and this is what. But devotees, we just want to glorify that, Lord, you are absolute. You are Ananta and your glories are Ananta. They are unlimited. Hari Karsha. Yes. Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. Yes. So from that perspective, it is very important for us to understand that the science of devotional service, जैसे भक्ति रसामृत सिंधु में श्रीला रूपा गोस्वामी ने डिस्क्राइब किया है, अध श्रद्धा तथा साधु संगो अथ भजन क्रिया तथा अनर्थ निवृत्ति स्यात् ततो निष्ठा रुचिस्ततः अथासक्तिस्ततो भावस् तथा प्रेमाभ्युधंचति sadhakam ayam premnaha pradurбhave bhavet kramaha. So what is the science of devotional service? It starts with Shraddha, Shraddha tata sadhu sangha. From Shraddha, one engages, one associates with the sadhus, devotees. So sadhu sangha, devotee association, is the next stage. And then one aspires to take the initiation and take shelter of a spiritual master. And the spiritual master engages one in devotional service, bhajana kriya. And by engaging in devotional service with the right understanding, that is also very important. One should not be separatist, but one should be inclusivist. So one should be including others. And anartha nivrati, all the anarthas, all the bad qualities, kam, krodh, lobh, moh, man, matsara, they are driven away. right? Lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, right? Madness, all that is driven away. And then one becomes nishtha. So one gets stronger faith. So you start with little faith, you get much more faith, nishtha. And so one starts developing ruchi. Ruchi is, attraction to hear about the name, form, activities, glories of Lord Shri Krishna. Tato nishta ruchis tatha. And from ruchi comes asakti, attachment. So one becomes more attached to devotional service. So the chain reaction starts here, right? With asakti comes bhava, feelings, thinking, feeling, willing, right? So here you have to first do to be, right? So we engage in devotional service so that we can be devotees. By engaging, we understand the bhava. So again, with that attachment, more and more the attachment grows, we get bhava. And bhava, it concentrates, a concentrated bhava, tata prema buddhanchati. So that is where it converts into love of Godhead. And it is at that stage that Bhakti Datta Bij is resting at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, and we are engaging in chanting, which is the watering process. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we are begging for Lord's devotional service. Because it's a privilege, it's not a right, it's a privilege. And we are begging for it. So as beggars, when we are chanting the holy name, Lord, He gives us opportunities so that we can engage in His loving devotional service, and we perform it with the purity in our heart, just to please Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the focus. So that devotional service pleases Him. And Lord Kapil Dev, he is explaining, जो devotional service bhakti है, जो कि एक person जो कि envious है, right, proud है, violent है, even he is committing violence against others, और जो बहुत गुस्सैल है, angry है, and who is separating, he is creating different separatist groups, it's considered to be in the mode of darkness, right? इसीलिए Queen Kunti, in the first canto, in her prayers, वो बोलती हैं, okay, one who is proud of their higher birth, one who is very rich, one who is, having many things to make them proud, anything time where pride cometh before fall, he cannot approach the Lordship with the right footing. Janmeshwarya Shutashi Bhir Edmana Madhapama Nevarhatya Bidhatum Vaitama Kinchana Gocharam. So one who has Janma, right, higher birth, Ashwarya, lot of opulence, Shruta, lot of knowledge, even a learned person, Shibhir is very beautiful, Edmana Madhapuman, because they are in mother, they are in this intoxicated by their pride, they cannot approach the Lordship. Nevarhatya Abhidatum Vai, so they cannot approach your Lordship, and he is Gocharam, Akinchana Gocharam. So again, he is easily approached by a person who is very humble, but not one who is proud by any of the external factors. So a person who is separatist, he is actually in service in mode of ignorance. So yes, even though devotional service may be transcendental, right? But one in the mode of ignorance may not be able to perform devotional service properly, because he may be very envious, he may be proud, he may be violent and angry, and lust, anger and greed are the three gates to hell. Now the second category, what is the second category that's being identified? So worship of a deity in the temple by a separatist, one who looks at different people in different categories, right? With a motive of, then now there is a motive, right? Like fruitive activity, that tendency is there, right? So that tendency is of material enjoyment, fame and opulence, right? Is devotion in the mode of passion. So sometimes we see that there's such people who are engaging in devotional service just so that they get name, fame and glories, and they are showing that how opulent they are, how privileged they are. This kind of devotional service is in a mode of passion, does not please the Lordship. And then finally, when a devotee, he worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself, right, of the inebrities of fruitive activities. So any activity that you perform, there may be some returns. So all those returns are also offered to the Lordship for the purification, right? That is a karma. Karma is pious activities, but one may still be attached to the fruitive results. Vikarma is impious activities, sinful actions. So one will have sinful reactions, one may have to suffer. And akarma is activities performed in devotional service only to please the Lordship. Now that kind of devotional service is in the mode of goodness. So this mode of goodness is when one is performing the mode of goodness without having a tinge of mode of ignorance or passion, right? In that particular stage, one is properly doing it, and that should the survive. It actually transcends one above the three modes of material nature. So ये जो unadulterated pure devotional service, unalloyed pure devotional service, जब कोई अपने मन से perform करता है, mind, body and words को engage करते हुए, he immediately attracts, right, the Lordship, and he is immediately attracted to the hearing and chanting and remembering the Lordship, his name form activities, pastimes, and Lord is residing in everyone's heart. सबके हृदय में भगवान सुपर सोल की तरह परमात्मा रूप में विराजमान है. और just like Ganges waters, है ना, जो गंगा का पानी होता है, immediately ocean की तरफ ही बहता है, it's pouring down, it's rushing towards the ocean. Similarly, जो devotional ecstasy होती है, जो हृदय में, क्या कहते हैं, उन्माद मचाती हुई जैसे नदी बहती है ना, वैसे बह रही है, uninterrupted by any material conditions. So again, it flows towards the Supreme Lord. So material conditions of a person cannot be a roadblock in his devotional initiatives or devotional service. So this is very important. तो हमें समझना चाहिए how we can be mindful, how we can be compassionate towards other living entities, towards the devotees, and engage in devotional service for our purification, lovingly when we are performing. So we should not be separatists, we should not be proud, we should not have any motive, we should not be angry at others, we should not be seeking sense enjoyment. These are the important things that we should not be doing. We should only be performing devotional service to please Lord Shri Krishna for our purification, because I may be impure, you may be impure, but Lord Krishna is pure. So when we are in touch with Lord Shri Krishna, when we engage in devotional service, we purify ourselves. Very nice example Srila Prabhupada used to give is that of an iron rod in fire. So when the iron rod is in touch with fire, it becomes red hot. And anyway, you touch the red hot, iron rod, immediately, the fire manifests because it has become like fire. So we are like iron rod, and Lord is like fire. So in touch with the fire, we become like fire. So we get purified. Now that does not mean we become God, right? That's another aspect. That's another ekatva, right? So a devotee is not trying to merge, like thinking that I have merged into Brahman, now I have become Brahman or Param Brahman. Rather, a devotee understand, yes, Brahmasmi, we are all, spiritual beings. And when we are in touch with the Lordship, when we engage in devotional service, then we become godly. We don't become God. And Srila Prabhupada used to sometimes even laughingly used to say, why do you want to become God when you can become greater than God? And he used to give the example of Yashoda Mai, that Yashoda Mai could bind even Lord Shri Krishna, right? Even greater than God. So that is also very important, that the bhakti attracts Lord Shri Krishna. And one can even, bind Lord with love, just like Yashoda Mai, she binds Lord not with the rope, but with her love. So it is her love that attracts, it is the love of a devotee that attracts Lord Shri Krishna. So a pure devotee does not accept any of the liberation stages, right? Starting with, Sayujya Mukti, then comes Salokya, Sashti, Samipya, and Sarupya. So there are 5 of them. In this chapter, when Srila Prabhupada was, instead of saying Sayujya, he used the word Ekatva, which is like merging into one, right? As, merging into the Lordship thinking that I have become God. So that is ekatva. But it is not the merging, because we are a spiritual spark. If the spark comes back to fire, doesn't mean it has become fire. It is still a spark of the fire, right? So that is ekatva or sayujya. Then the second one is salokya. Salokya is residing at the same planet as Lord, right? So all the Vaikuntha planets are there. So if you go back to Vaikuntha, then you are at Salokya, same planet. Then there is Sashti, having same opulence as Lordship. So Lord Krishna is so merciful that he wants to share everything, just like a father wants to share everything with his sons. He wants to share everything with his devotees. Yet at the same time, so again, the devotees want to use everything that they receive in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna in the service. So there is a loving exchange back and forth of giving that is going on. So Sashti is having the same opulence as Lord. And then Samipya, being close to the Lord, right? The Gopa boys in Vrindavan, they are constantly playing with the Lordship and they are spending their times. So again, in Vaikuntha planets, the devotees are constantly having association of Lordship. They can see the Lordship in their hearts. So again, they can directly interact, Samipya. And then comes Sarupya. So again, when in Vaikuntha planet, the living entities they go, they get the four-arm form as Lord Vishnu. They don't have the Kaustubha jewel or the Shivatsa. But apart from that, they have a similar form as Lord Vishnu. So that's Samrupya. So again, a pure devotee does not desire any of these liberations. He just desires to please Lord Shri Krishna by engaging in loving devotional service. And just like a chariot of fire, not Srila Prabhupada, when he translated, there's such beautiful analogy, Kapil Dev, son of Devhutin Kadam Muni, he is giving कि जैसे हवा के रथ पे जैसे जो खुशबू तैरती है, right? The chariot of air carries an aroma, right, from its source. It could be a flower, it could be a fragrant object. Immediately catches this sense of smell. So we immediately, हम लोग सूंघते हैं, तो हमें पता लगता है बहुत प्यारी खुशबू आ रही है. जैसे हम लोग अभी तो गर्मी का मौसम चल रहा है और हम लोग कभी रात की रानी, बुगनावेलिया, इन डिफरेंट फ्लावर्स के एरिया से जब गुजरते हैं तो बड़ी प्यारी से सौंधी खुशबू आती है. कभी कभी बारिश के बाद में मिट्टी से भी खुशबू आती है. सो द हवा का जो रथ है वो इन खुशबुओं को कैरी करके लाता है, राइट? फ्रॉम एयर कम्स द सेंस ऑफ टच. एंड व्हेन वी स्मेल दिस, then we understand. So similarly, जो हमेशा भक्ति में लीन रहता है, one who is constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness to please Lord Shri Krishna, understanding Lord Shri Krishna, he is everything to us. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhu cha sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravidam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Understanding that he is our all in all, he is everything. So in such mood, when one is engaged in devotional service, he can catch the Supreme Lord, just like Mother Yashoda, she ran after Lord Shri Krishna and she caught him, right? And Lord is present everywhere as Paramatma. So we have to understand that when we engage in devotional service, we are engaging in various ways. So one who worships the deities in the temple but does not understand that Lord is residing everywhere as Paramatma, he is basically, ignorant, right? And Lord says, Lord Kapil Dev, he is saying that such a person, he is compared to a person who's making oblations in the ashes, not in the fire. Oblation in the fire is for the Yajna Purusha and the mother is Swaha. So when we make oblations, जब हम अग्नि में आहुति देते हैं, तो हम लोग वो दे रहे हैं मदर स्वाहा को. तो इसलिए जो मंत्र हैं वो दे एंड विद स्वाहा, राइट? भोक्तारम यज्ञ तपसाम सर्वलोक महेश्वरम सुहृदम सर्वभूतानाम ज्ञात्वा माम शांतिम रिच्छति. भोक्तारम यज्ञ तपसाम. So Lord Krishna कहते हैं, he is the beneficiary of all the sacrifices, right? तो जितने भी यज्ञ हैं और जितने भी तप हैं, ऑस्टेरिटीज हैं, जो भी हम परफॉर्म करते हैं वो भगवान के लिए परफॉर्म करते हैं. लेकिन हम जब फायर के बजाय अपने ऑब्लेशंस राख पे डालेंगे, on ashes, they will have no value. That will be a waste. So a person who does not understand that Lord is residing everywhere as Paramatma, his offering is like that. It's on ashes, does not yield value. And similarly, if someone who is envious of other people, right, other bodies, right? Not just human beings, but if they are envious of other kind of living entities, and so he's making separation, different kind of human beings, different kind of living entities, वो कभी he never attains peace, उसको कभी शांति नहीं मिलती है, right? Because of his inimical behavior, this inimical behavior जो होता है towards other living entities, do not give him, because he does not understand Bhoktaram Ekadupsam Sarvalok Maheshwaram, that he is, Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of all material and spiritual universes, Surhidam Sarva Bhutanam, that he is the best friend, he is the well-wisher of all living entities. So this is an essential aspect. इसलिए जब devotees they engage in devotional service and they understand that Lord is everywhere, and whatever knowledge they get is for purification. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavi hastani shuni chava shopake cha pandita samadarshina. जो पंडित होता है, one who is in knowledge, he is samadarshina, he has equal vision. And with vidya, with knowledge, becomes vinay sampanne. So he becomes more humble, more peaceful, and more he has more loving exchange with all kind of living entities, and he understands ब्राह्मणे गवि हस्तिनी शुनि चवा शौपाकेचा. एक ब्राह्मण के अंदर गवि इस काव के अंदर, हस्तिनी एक एलिफेंट के अंदर, and shuni cheva shaupakecha, a dog and a dog eater, all of them are living entities, and Lord is residing in their heart as Paramatma. So this should make us understand that when we engage in devotional service, we should engage in devotional service while making sure our exchange is going on very nicely with all other living entities. We should see Lord everywhere. And then वो बता रहा है कि my dear mother, right, Lord Kapil is saying to his mother Devahuti that even if a person worships with proper rituals and paraphernalia, he is doing everything properly, a person जो कि भगवान को उनके परमात्मा रूप से neglect करता है, that Lord is residing in everyone's heart, he can never please the Lord by the worship of deities in the temple. Now today, in these times, we see that things have drastically changed, even in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, even for ISKCON. Back in Srila Prabhupada's time, 98% of the devotees, they resided in the temples, right? Only 2% were like grahasthas and others outside the temple. Now the situation has reversed. 98% of people are outside the temple. Only 2%, 1 to 2% are residing in the temple. And so things have changed, but what has not changed? Devotional service. And our attitude towards devotional service is to please Lord Shri Krishna, which means to please humanity, to pray for everyone. And currently in these times of pandemic, the devotees, they gather together and they're constantly chanting the holy name for the benefit of society. Yes, charity begins at home. We are seeking our purification. Yet at the same time, we are also praying that, my dear Lord, please help the suffering humanity. Please help them come to your shelter. Take to devotional service, to take to your lotus feet, so that they can become free of all kind of anxieties. And the gratitude of love is shown, by one when they, share it with others. Sharing multiplies again. And so happiness, whatever facilities a devotee has, they engage in sharing it with others, so that everyone engages very nicely in Lord's devotion service, and they divide the sorrow. That way, by division, the sorrow diminishes, while the happiness multiplies by sharing all the facilities and the glories of the Lordship. That is an essential lesson that a devotee, takes to and, practices. And Lord Krishna says that samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshu asti na priyaha ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya maita teshu chapyaham. That he does not, envy anyone and is not friend to anyone. But those who are engaged in his devotional service, ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. But two is referred to that birth. But one who is engaged in his loving devotional service, he is in them and they are in him, so he is friend to them. So Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna that yes, He is equal to all, but his devotees are very dear to him. And he is reciprocating with his devotees constantly. Just like a father is equal to all his sons. But the son who is constantly serving the father, pleasing the father, father gives blessing to that son, while he is equally disposed towards others. So this is also very important. And the last verse, what is Lord Kapila? So he also discusses the 21 varieties of living entities. He is identifying that of many-legged, four-legged are superior. Of four-legged, the human beings who are two-legged are superior. And among the human beings, one who's performing the prescribed duties are superior. Among them, now he's talking about the four Varnas, the Brahmanas are superior. The Brahmanas who know the Vedas are superior. Then above them are the ones who understand the purpose of those Vedas. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha Vedaishcha sarvairahameva vedyo vedant kridveda videva chaham. Srila Prabhupada used to give reference to this particular verse many times, because here Lord Krishna is revealing what is the purpose of Vedas, right? He is superior than one who has understood Vedas and who is fully knowledgeable about Vedas. If you have not understood the essence, then what's the value of Veda? Ved means knowledge, right? But if you need to understand what's the essence of knowledge, why are you getting this knowledge? So he is saying, Sarvasya chaham hridaya sannivishto. I am residing in the heart of all living entities. So Lord resides in the heart of all living entities as who? As Super Soul, as Paramatma, right? Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. And Lord is saying that from me comes smritir, remembrance, jnanam, knowledge, and apohanam, forgetfulness. Right? Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Vedaischa sarvar aham eva vedyo vedant krit ved videva chaham. So again, all the Vedas have come from him. He is the one who is the knower of the Vedas, and he is the purpose, that should be understood through the Vedas. So again, he is the essence. So again, we should understand that Lord, the purpose of Vedas is to become more humble, more tolerant, more grateful, and more, compassionate and more loving towards the Lordship, to build our attachment, attraction, affection, attention, and alignment using a compass, right, to understand. So again, man and dan, these are the two words that are normally, man is given to one who is at a higher level, dan is given to one who is at a inferior than you, like, who's at the lower stage. But compassion and bhakti, these interactions are done. So again, humility and tolerance can be practiced irrespective of where other person is. One can be humble at whatever stage they are and engage in devotional service with love, because love does not belong to any class. You cannot say he can only love because he is white, he can only love because he is an Indian, he can only love because he is a man. You cannot make those distinctions. Love is the natural tendency of a human being, of all living entities actually, not just human beings. All living entities, they understand the essence of love, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagwan jo hai, Prem Kripa Sindhu Sagar hai. So again, we should understand that he is the ocean. He is unlimited, right? And so the eternal time factor is where, after making the distinction of 21 categories of living entities, he is saying that the pure devotee is the topmost, because that living entity is properly situated in his position. Jivera Swarupoya Krishnera Nitya Das. So again, that is the best position to be at, because we are above the bodily conception in our true position and our Swadharma. And then Kapil Dev अपनी मदर देवहूति को बताते हैं कि जो टाइम फैक्टर है, जो समय है, it has no beginning, no end. Yes, you can think of it as past, present, and future. You can also say it is cyclic in nature, because there was yesterday, there is today, and there will be tomorrow, and the same thing will repeat again. So today will become yesterday, and then tomorrow will become present, and then another day, following day would be tomorrow, and so forth. So it may be cyclic in nature, but in reality it has no beginning and no end. उसका ना तो कहीं शुरुआत है, ना ही कभी अंत होता है. And time is actually an external potency, it's a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, उसके उसमें बताते हैं, maker of the criminal world. So this material universe is that criminal world because people have their propensity to enjoy. So that's why this is like a jail, right? So in a city, you have normal citizens who follow law-abiding citizens, but those who like to break laws, they are put in a jail. Right? So similarly, in the spiritual world, all law-abiding living entities who are engaged in devotional service 24/7, because there is no factor of time there, it's an external representation of the Supreme Lord. So everything is in present moment. Everyone is engaging in the serving with love, Lord Shri Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While here in this material world, people are seeking to enjoy their senses, so that way they have been put in a jail. And this the jailer of this jail is Goddess Durga. Yes, you got it. So Durga comes from Durga, the fortress. So we have been, surrounded by this Durga, the material universe, and there are the 7 layers of the, universal form that is, keeping us within this material world. And in this material world, to get out is very simple, for simple-minded, like I said. And all it takes is one to start with faith, with love, with devotion, with gratitude, with humility, with tolerance, chant to please Lord Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Praying to Lord Shri Krishna, to Mother Radha, to Lord Ram, to please engage us in their devotional service. So we all praying. And Lord Kapil now provides a glimpse to what's coming attraction, right? He's saying that in this material world, it is all run through the time. It is the time that agitates the Mahat Tattva and the 3 modes of material nature and so forth. All the elements are formed. And this material universe has come into existence. There are many universes within this material world. And then he's saying that it even destroys the Lord of Death, Yamraj. So the time factor is even more powerful. Now, by giving this glimpse of Lord of Death, Yamraj, he's given a glimpse, what the coming attraction. In the next 3 chapters, we'll be discussing what happens to people who don't take to devotional service, how they suffer life after life, right? And even the ones who are engaged in knowledge, bahunam janmanamante jnanvamam prapadyate. So even a person who is in knowledge takes many, many births to take to devotional service, because devotional service is the ultimate shelter, as Mother Devahuti reveals in the very first prayers when she is saying, when she is requesting to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. So we should not be seeking, when we look at philosophy, we may engage in philosophical speculation. We should avoid that. When we are trying to become sentimental, then it leads to mental speculation. We should avoid that too. Rather, we should just engage in devotional service to please Lord Shri Krishna. And devotional service is the shelter that enables us, right? So a devotee, he never wants anything in this material world, right? He does not desire anything. He doesn't, we are not of this world, but we are in this world, right? So we as living entities are here in this material world, so we want to go back to where we belong. So we don't reside here, and a devotee only desires to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this servitude, this attitude to serve, it has eternally existed. Jivera Surapura Krishna Nityadas, we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. And so the Lord appears eternally. We living entities, the servants, we exist eternally, and the service. So Sevaya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sevak, we, the living entities, and Seva, the devotional service. They all are eternal in nature. They are all absolute in nature, provided we engage in devotional service. Because we seek, sense gratification, and we become maligned, right? We take on different kind of anarthas. So who's the cause? Again, we have all discovered the enemies, and who's the enemy? The enemy is us, because we are focusing on sense gratification. When we give up that thought of sense gratification and only seek to please Lord Shri Krishna, Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Vichate. So when we engage all our senses in serving the master of the senses, then Sevanam bhakti uchyate. So that is the topmost devotional service. That is the best service. Hare Krishna. So this is the lesson we learned today, as how there are three categories of devotees, the three modes as one can be engaged in devotional service, and how one may be suffering this material world, and 21 categories of living entities, and of them the topmost is the pure devotee, because he is properly situated in his devotional service. So again, these are some of the important lessons we should take to, and we should not engage in over endeavoring, ritualistic activities without understanding the essence. And the essence is to please Lord Shri Krishna. So all our activities that please Lord Shri Krishna should be taken up, and any activity that may appear ritualistically very opulent but does not please Lord Shri Krishna should be given up, because our focus is to please Lord Shri Krishna and be mindful and be aware, right? So, be grateful and be compassionate when we are serving Lord Shri Krishna and his devotees. Hare Krishna. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions?
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच. काफी इंसाइटफुल क्लास थी, और आपको मैं ये जस्ट बताना चाहती थी, शेयर करना चाहती थी कि बहुत सारे डिवोटीज ने कॉन्स्टेंटली पार्टिसिपेशन रखा और ब्यूटीफुल समरीज एक्सप्रेस किए हैं. जैसे जैसे उन्होंने इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट्स श्रवण किए, दे केप्ट शेयरिंग. सो वी आर रियली थैंकफुल to Prabhuji, and we are really thankful to all the viewers. So Prabhuji, I am seeing one question. नेहा शर्मा जी ने आपकी जब क्लास चल रही थी बीच में एक क्वेश्चन किया था जो मैंने नोट किया है. I will read it out. And meanwhile सभी viewers से रिक्वेस्ट है, अगर आपके कुछ भी स्पिरिचुअल इंक्वायरीज है या इस पर्टिकुलर क्लास से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चंस है, you can present them in the comments now. I will read them to Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, there is a request for some kirtan after this Q&A session. So if we have few minutes, we can do that. So the question was by Neha Sharma ji. उन्होंने पूछा है, Prabhuji, I just wanted to ask, if we just do our chanting and japa, do whatever seva we can, but don't get opportunity to engage too much in sadhu sangha, will it be an aparad? तो she wants to understand, especially अभी पैंडेमिक टाइम्स में सब घर में रहते हुए श्रवण कीर्तन कर रहे हैं, कृष्ण प्रसाद सेवा कर रहे हैं, तो we don't have that much in person sadhu sangha opportunity, but we are getting sadhu sangha online. So well, if we don't have that in person opportunity, then is it an aparad or something to worry about? So how should we understand that?
Hare Krishna.
Microphone.
Sure.
Let me put on microphone.
Krishna Sharma ji, again, this is also a very important question you are asking. In person sadhu sangha or virtual sadhu sangha में कोई खास difference नहीं है. What is important is, are we getting more attracted to Lord Shri Krishna? So when we are engaged in chanting, this is to attentively chant, so that we are asking for devotional service, and we are begging for that, my dear Lord, please engage us in your devotional service. My dear Mother, please engage us in your devotional service. So we are begging for devotional service. And even Sadhu Sangha is also one of, so again, there are 64 ways Srila Rupa Goswami describes. And he says, 5 of them are so potent that even a neophyte, a Kanishta Adhikari, who's a beginner, can attain perfection. They can attain love of Godhead, they can experience love of Godhead. One of them is, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are so fortunate because we are in direct association with the Lordship. So again, Srimad Bhagavatam is literary incarnation of the Lordship. Then comes, second is chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So while it is a prayer asking for devotional service, it is also devotional service. Then reciting at a dham, wherever the deity is, wherever there is Srimad Bhagavatam, that place also becomes dham, where the glories of the Lordship are being chanted. And then comes deity worship. So again, if we have deities in our home, Gauranitai or Radha Krishna deities, then we worship them. That's also invokes love of Godhead. with the right mood. So we have to understand this chapter we learned. And then the most important is the devotee association. And yes, sometimes because of the pandemic, we cannot have physical interaction with the devotees. We can always, seek virtual, association. And just like you are in this class and you're getting devotee association, there's so many devotees, they're asking questions, they're sharing what they're learning, and you're reading all those comments and so forth, you're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. This is all devotee association. And also congregational chanting, people gather on Zoom calls. We all chant together for 2 hours now, constantly on a daily basis. So this is all devotions, as devotee association. So please take advantage as much as you can. जैसा कि even संत कबीर कह के गए हैं, लूट सके तो लूट ले हरि नाम की लूट, अंत समय पछताएगा जब प्राण जाएंगे छूट. So again, अंत काले च मामेव स्मरण मुक्त्वा कलेवरम. Lord Krishna says that at the last moment of their life, if one remembers me, यह प्रयाति समद भावम याति नास्तत्र संशय. If one remembers me exclusively at the last moment of life, at the moment of death, will attain my nature. So it's not that we'll merge into God and become God. No, we will be able to go back home, back to Godhead, right? And we'll be constantly serving the Lordship, and we'll be out of this place of kuntha, right? This place of anxiety, constant anxiety, this material world. Hopefully this answers your question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. We have about 3-4 more questions. Can we take them?
Please.
Okay. So Neha ji gratitude express कर रही हैं. She got her answer. आपने जो insight provide किया. Sadhu Sangha is very important. It is for our enthusiasm and to stay motivated. So and Anthony has said that Prabhuji and Mataji, much love and respect sent. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. So we have few more questions. Prabhuji, Baisakhi ji ka question hai. Prabhuji, we can find some devotees who think they are great in devotional service, but they are full of material desires and misleading others. So how do we deal with such people? So ये पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन प्रभु जी, हम जो इतनी टीचिंग्स पढ़ते हैं और बार बार हमें ये इंस्ट्रक्शन मिलता है कि हमें दूसरों को जज नहीं करना है, ये टीचिंग्स को अपने ऊपर अप्लाई करना है. एट द सेम टाइम, बिकॉज ऑफ अवर defective material senses and our tendency, we make an observation and confusion आता है दिमाग में कि how should we understand other devotees entangled in material desires and misleading others. So please help us understand.
Krishna, we just talked about importance of devotee association. So devotee association, it rubs on us. So when we see a devotee who's very much attracted in serving Lord Shri Krishna with love, with gratitude, with humility, with tolerance, then we become more loving, we become grateful, and we become more humble, and we get attracted more and more towards Lord Shri Krishna. Because what is happening is this transfer of desire happening from such devotees. So again, we should be in engagement and association with those devotees who are inclusive of all and ready to bring us closer to Lord Shri Krishna. That should be the kind of association we should be looking at. If we see devotees who are very proud, who may be seeking name, fame, and glories, and they're constantly seeking to kind of drive their own personal agendas in the name of God, right? Srila Prabhupada used to talk about many of the saints at his time who were actually looking for name, fame, and glories, and many Mayavadi philosophers, he used to comment on those, saying that, why are you using Bhagavad Gita to push forward your agenda? Why don't you write your own subjects? Don't try to pollute Bhagavad Gita by pushing your agendas. And that's why he was not able to find, a genuine and authentic translation of Bhagavad Gita. And he wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita yatha roop. Because he wanted to express that it is very important to pass on the message as Lord Krishna intended. So this is very, very important for us to understand that Bhagavad Gita as it is, as Lord Krishna intended. That was the motive that Srila Prabhupada had. And he wrote Bhagavad Gita for our benefit. So we should be associating with devotees who bring us close to Lord Krishna. And if we have association of devotees who are proud, who are seeking name, fame, and glories, and they are seeking their own personal agendas, then that will soon rub on us and will take us away from Lord Shri Krishna. So we should be very, very careful of our association. And instead of judging others, because judging others is also very bad, we should be constantly looking at our compass. How compassionate are we, right? So our compassionate, the first part is compass, right? So that compassion towards others, and especially, the devotees of the Lord, as well as to the Lordship, is very important. So when we keep our compass aligned, we automatically get the, pointed in the direction where our compass is pointing. So if it is aligned in the right direction, we'll be in the right direction. We'll be approaching fast, very quickly towards Lord Shri Krishna. If it is deviated, if our compass is, we are not following the true compass, and we are pointed with name, fame, glories, or, completely ignorant towards the sadhus, so that will drive us away. So again, it is very important for us to constantly seek. Charity begins at home. We have to see, I want to get to Lord Krishna as soon as possible. I want to engage in his loving devotional service as soon as possible. I want to chant more and more as soon as possible. I want to be more attentive. I want to be more loving. I want to be more mindful. I want to be more compassionate. For this, we need to be more grateful and pray with all our heart that, my dear Lord, please give us the association so that we can come closer to you. And we should be seeking out such association. Online, virtual association, or in person, doesn't matter. These are just various modes. In reality, we living entity are hidden in the heart of this body, right? So even, our interaction in this material world is in a virtual manner, because we are working through gross senses. Similarly, this is an extension of senses. When we look at our laptops or desktops or phones, are basically virtual extensions of our senses. Hopefully this answers your question. So please, we should try to avoid association that takes us away from Lord Shri Krishna, and continue to have more and more of association that brings us closer and closer to Lord Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा बैसाखी जी, होपफुली इट इज नॉट कंफ्यूजिंग एनीमोर. हमें दूसरे डिवोटीज की एक्चुअली स्पिरिचुअल एक्टिविटीज देखनी चाहिए, और उससे अच्छी जितनी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं वो इम्बाइब करना चाहिए. एंड रेस्ट वी शुड नॉट फोकस ऑन, बिकॉज ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम everybody purifies. Okay, Prabhuji, we have next question from Karuna Sindhu. Prabhuji, वो लिखते हैं, प्रभु जी, will chanting help us develop mindfulness and compassion? तो इन्होंने जो हमारा आज का टाइटल था उससे रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन पूछा है, और पूछ रहे हैं कि और we need to serve a pure soul or guru also to develop these divine qualities. Chanting say we will develop all divine qualities, or we need to actually go and practice other process of devotional services? So let me put on the microphone. ये करुणा सिंधु प्रभु जी का क्वेश्चन है.
Hare Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Prabhu. Very important question you have asked. Actually, in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he actually reveals this process. Again, it has to be taken in disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajeshya vidu. When he gives the example that he had previously imparted this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gyan, to the sun god Vivaswan, who gave it to his son Vavasvata Manu. Vavasvata means son of Vivaswan. And then Vavasvata Manu gave it to his son Ikshvaku, who was the emperor of this world, of this earth. And then he gave it to his sons and so forth. So in Surya Vamsha, this had been coming, but somewhere in the chain, the disciplic succession was broken. So we are speaking again to Arjuna to re-establish that disciplic succession. So disciplic succession doesn't mean that there is a chain of people who are imparting knowledge, but finally they are connected with Lord Shri Krishna. Srila Prabhupada used to give the example of a powerhouse, right? Electrical powerhouse. So electrical powerhouse is sending electricity everywhere, right? And when we connect the electrical bulb again, the switch, to the socket, the power socket, when we connect to that, at that time the bulb is lighted up, because now the electricity is flowing. If it is not lighted up, the bulb is still there, the potential is still there, but it's not utilized. So similarly, we may be praying, but unless we take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, because that is the process. And Srila Prabhupada used to give this example, even, that we have to follow the process. Adha Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Atha Bhajana Kriya. So it is the spiritual master who engages his disciple in Bhajana Kriya, in devotional service. Right? And then anartha nivritti happens. So again, all kind of impurities are driven away from our heart. Lust, anger, greed, and all other impurities like kam, krodh, lobha, man, matsara, they are all driven away. So this is also very important, that we have to take to disciplic succession. Now, second question that arises is, do we have to take initiation? Now here acharyas, they give little variation, because they say that even in our parampara, there are many disciples, they appeared just by instruction, they did not take a formal initiation. One example is given is, Shukdev Goswami, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Vyasadev, and then he did not take initiation because he was self-realized soul. Parikshit Maharaj did not take initiation because he directly heard, so he took instructions. We also hear about Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was not an initiated disciple of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was, the Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was his instructing spiritual master, right? So again, he gave instructions. So again, but at the same time, it doesn't mean we should neglect that opportunity when we have so many spiritual masters available in the society. So we should take initiation, definitely, so that way we are connected with parampara. Just like, now we are into the same socket of the powerhouse coming from, and who's the original powerhouse? Lord Shri Krishna. So it's very important for us to take to disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada used to have a disciple who actually left the moment, and he grew beard and long hair, and he fancied one day becoming guru. At that time, Srila Prabhupada looked at him, understanding his attitude, thinking that he has become my disciple, and now he is living in a Western world, wearing Western clothes, growing long hair and beard. He says, no, you have to follow the process. So it is very important to follow bhajan kriya. Sometimes people say, okay, now we have initiated, now we have become spiritualized and we have reached. No, initiation means you just got an entry, admission into the school, admission into the society. So that is the beginning step, not the end step. Now you have to do bhajan kriya and grow yourself. Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhuji, can you check your iMessage? I pasted the question there.
Okay, hold on.
Last question.
So, chanting does help us to become mindful, because we have to make an effort to be more attentive, right? And absorb, and clearly pronouncing the words very clearly, chanting the mantra very clearly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is also needed, that we should be more attentive, we should be more mindful when we are chanting the holy name, and then the chant reaction would involve, because we get purified and we'll be more attentive as we continue to chant. And yes, we do need to serve a pure soul, we do need to, accept a guru, a spiritual master, so that we get connected to the power source. So that is hopefully this answers the question. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच. तो हमने अभी ये बेटर अंडरस्टैंड किया कि किस तरीके से एंगेजिंग इन डिवोशनल सर्विस, स्पेशली चैंटिंग, helps in development of divine qualities, क्योंकि our senses get purified. So Prabhuji, there is one more last question by Kaushal Yadav. Prabhuji, how can a person remember at unconscious stage in his last breath? इनका ये जो क्वेश्चन है, एक्सक्यूज मी, तो आपने बीच में रेफर किया था जो पॉपुलर वर्स है भगवत गीता की, अंत काले च whatever is the state of our mind at the moment the soul is leaving the body is the destination it will achieve. तो इनका क्वेश्चन इससे रिलेटेड है कि रिमेम्बर कैसे कर सकता है कोई भी पर्सन, क्योंकि सारे सेंसेस फेल हो जाते हैं, तो इस बारे में थोड़ा इंसाइट दीजिए. लेट मी पुट ऑन द microphone.
Hare Krishna, very important question. How do we remember the Lord at the last moment, right, of our life, at the moment of death? For that, we have to chant constantly, regularly, now when we are alive, when we have all our senses. Srila Prabhupada was once asked by his disciple a similar question, that what happens when our senses become dull? Srila Prabhupada said that if you continue to follow the process, constantly engaged 24/7 in Lord's devotional service, constantly thinking and meditating on Lord's name form activities, pastimes, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will force himself into your memory and you will be chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what is important is for us to chant regularly, at least the minimum 16 rounds, on other day and on special days minimum 25 rounds, and that is the minimum, not the maximum. Sometimes people, as soon as they finish the 16 rounds, then they just put the japa beads so well hidden that sometimes you feel that even Krishna would have a hard time finding where the japa beads are. So again, that should not be the attitude that I am done. We are never done. We are always doing, right? Only, kind of being that's done is a dead being, right? Any living being means we are still doing, we are still living, we are still breathing. So we should be engaging ourselves constantly in devotional service, taking opportunity of every single moment. Hare Krishna, hopefully that answers your question. And the verse that was referred earlier was, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajandant kalevram yah prayati samadbhavam. No. Tam tam evate sakantayat sadatad bhava bhavita yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever one thinks at the last moment, right? Tajant antakaleva, at the last moment of life, at the moment of death, tam tam evate kantaya sadatad bhava bhavita. That destination one attains because mind is the carrier. That's why we started with mind matters. Because mind is the carrier that carries the soul to its next destination. Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhuji, can we have some kirtan?
Yes. And can you take care of Govind? Hare Krishna. So please join us for Nasimadev prayers. It's a prayer for protection as well as we can ask and pray for others as well. Namaste Narasimhaya, Namaste Narasimhaya, Prahlad Narasimhaya, Prahlad Hare
Hare. Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Bhakta Vignanashak Nrsimhadev Bhagwan की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, शीला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.